Bear down, Bears fans. Another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the designer, Courtney Cronin up here at Hallis Hall. We've gotten to see practice, a little bit that we actually get to see. We've, of course, gotten to hear from Shane Waldron and Eric Washington, and we got to talk about this upcoming game that the Bears have that I love how Montez Sweat said it. I love how Cole Kmet said it yesterday. They're all must win at this point.
Yeah.
It's not a you get an opportunity to lose another game here. So for me, I think that this is a very, very important game heading into this week, Courtney, because you have a situation where Caleb Williams facing another one of the rookie quarterbacks in his class. You don't want to be on the losing end of two of these. Mm-hmm. This, to me, is a standout game. While, yes, they're all very important, this is one that maybe starts to change narratives a little bit about your quarterback.
For a team that's 4-4 right now, a win goes a long way to get back in the win column because it's going to be really hard from week 11 on when they have 6 division games in 8 weeks. It's going to be brutal. So getting a win when you can, but also showing that your quarterback doesn't get outplayed by the quarterback on the other side. He got outplayed through 3 quarters by Jaden Daniels in Washington. And yes, Washington didn't score any touchdowns until the Hail Mary. But Jaden Daniels, I remember looking one point, it was like 300-something passing yards. Caleb Williams, like 50-something.
Yeah,
and you just don't want to leave a game feeling like the other quarterback, not anything like about talent or anything but that the other quarterback is in a better situation than your quarterback to execute the offense, and that they're in that person is, on a fast track or faster track or trajectory to having success in this league that's going to be sustainable. You want to believe, if you're the Bears, that Shane Waldron is the right coordinator for Caleb Williams, that all these kinks that they have in the offense after it was rolling through the first, it was rolling in those 3 games before the week 7 bye. Like, show you can get back to that. So I think for this Patriots game coming in, it's your last one where they're 6.5-point favorites. That's one of the highest point totals or one of the highest spreads that they've had in the Matt Eberflus era. Take advantage of that because you're not going to be on the winning side very likely of a lot of those division games, just given the strength of the NFC North right now and where you stand in the hierarchy of that.
Yeah, let's have the conversation start here about this offensive side of the ball because we got a chance to hear from Shane Waldron today, and I got a chance to ask him about Ryan Bates. Kind of danced around it like we often see, but where do you see Ryan Bates fitting back in? Do you think that he's somebody that has to be back in this roster kind of immediately? Because you have so many questions, not only just at injuries, Courtney, but realistically, when this offensive line was healthy, the middle of it was the biggest question. That's where he's supposed to play a part.
Yeah, I mean, he can play center. He can play either guard spot. We saw him do all of those things in training camp when he was healthy. If they really don't feel like Coleman Shelton can handle, there's a lot of pre-snap penalties right now.
Yes.
Is some of that on the offensive line? I mean, yes, of course, we've seen the false starts. We've seen, the negative plays that have been a byproduct of that. We've seen the offensive line struggle to protect the quarterback. We know that sacks are on everybody, but they're going to get highlighted for that. So if they feel that a switch is necessitated by somebody coming off injured reserve because he's eligible and he's been eligible now for a week, then I think you make that call and keep Tevin Jenkins at left guard, keep Matt Pryor at right guard, because what Matt Eberflus has said in all of this is that they don't want to make multiple changes along the offensive line. Right now, we don't know. Braxton Jones was out there at practice. Maybe that one's trending in the right direction. On the other side of the line, Darnell Wright wasn't out there for 2 straight days. Right. I have a hard time believing he's going to play this week. We hear it's an MCL injury. That's probably something that might take him a little bit of time to recover from, depending upon the severity.
Right.
So when you're already dealing with that many injuries, and if this means that if Braxton Jones comes back, you're kicking Larry Borum over to right tackle, you're probably going to want to mitigate the other moves that you make and the thought of having to shift other people around. Because if you put Ryan Bates at right guard, it's Matt Pryor, then
like the right tackle probably,
like
or he's their left tackle.
They kept
either
saying
one,
that they wanted to solidify that side of the line and keep them there, and he's been playing pretty well. So
Pryor is somebody who
I struggle with the thought of moving him around just to create an opening to then have to create the continuity for whoever's playing for Darnell Wright, then next to somebody who's getting into the lineup for the first time in like 2 months.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I always say take PFF with a grain of salt because, you know, like they keep telling me Braxton Jones a good player and I watch him. You know, but realistically speaking, you know, when you can kind of forget a guy is over there, that's usually a good thing on the offensive line because it probably means he's doing his job. When you look at the PFF numbers along with that, and that's how I felt about Matt Pryor, they have him ranked as the 8th best pass blocking right tackle, or right guard, I should say, in the NFL. I think it was a 79.6 grade on that. You can kind of match that up to the play that you've seen out of him. He's been solid there. I don't know if you want to move him around, Court, but realistically speaking, the biggest question has been Coleman Shelton at that center position. I understand with a rookie quarterback, you may not want to make a major move at the center position, but let's be real about this. You can't sit here and tell me that the center position has been good for you. Even in your best weeks, I've seen Coleman Shelton end up on the ground. He just doesn't have the weight for it. I don't know if Ryan Bates is the answer. Me and you watched him in training camp, and I left training camp feeling like, it looks like you traded for a backup right guard. It doesn't look like you traded for your next starting center. But I remember you asking Tevin Jenkins about who the vocal leader of this team is, who's the leader of this offensive line. And without a beat, he said Ryan Bates. Maybe this team's struggles have come from the fact that they've been playing without their offensive line leader for 9 weeks.
Could be. And I'll be really curious to see if Matt Eberflus shed some light on where Bates has been practicing. I know they cross-train these guys because they have to. And he mentioned that earlier in the week when he was talking about like the tackle injuries that they have. But if Bates has been getting snaps, if somebody's willing to admit like, yeah, he's been taken over at center, then I would envision that this would be the week that they're willing to call him up to get him a roster spot from moving him from IR to the 53 and to at least try it. Because I think one of the things that, is so hard to stomach is when you hear they're not going to make any sort of changes, like, and that
with Caleb Williams 29 sacks into his NFL career, they're not making any changes.
He's on pace for 62.
Yeah.
Like, I understand when if they want to say change comes from looking inward. Okay, well, look inward and see that you have a guy that you haven't tested out at the center position in games and try that, because it can't get any worse than it is right now. It's been really bad, and you risk. Like, I know that Caleb, he put some of the sacks on himself. Of course, if you're holding on to the ball too long, if there's a third down situation, sometimes you're going to take a sack that you probably shouldn't. But if you're Shane Waldron calling this game plan, and really like you're like putting the game plan together to figure out how you can attack their weaknesses, I think that it's pretty evident through the first couple of games that that's not an area that has been a strength for the Bears, because why are they not able to? Their first drives have looked like a dud through 9 weeks now. They haven't scored much in the first quarter, but it's on Shane Waldron too to do all those things, but to protect your quarterback so you don't. I said this yesterday in the question that I phrased it to Caleb, so you don't break his confidence. The more guys get hit, I don't care where the sacks are coming from. I don't care if it's on the quarterback, if it's on the right tackle, if it's on the center, or so, having somebody blow through him and get to Caleb Williams. I don't care where it's coming from. You have to mitigate those things so you don't stunt his development. So if there's a better solution than living in max protection for, the next couple games and having, 2 route concepts and all of that, and if it comes by making changes to the personnel in the offensive line, then you have to give it a shot. Like, realistically, it's not going out and getting somebody else. It's not going out and changing what you're doing and what your philosophy is. That's looking inward. That's looking inward and finding that is a solution internally that you can make.
Is there a scenario here where Ryan Poles comes down and kind of involves himself in that process? Because realistically speaking, with Ryan Bates coming back, this is the offensive line he envisioned, minus, of course, Darnell Wright. Guys are a little bit banged up now and stuff like that. Matt Pryor has exceeded how we play. But realistically speaking, you have 4 of the 5 players currently on your roster that you planned on starting the season protecting Caleb Williams at.
Because he was expecting Bates to be at right guard. He was never expecting Coleman Shelton to not be at center. So at least like as camp went on.
As camp started happening.
When we're going into the final week of the regular season, and he talks about that group of like what he expected, Ryan Bates was going to be part of that. So if he's healthy enough to play, I feel like they're going to have a hard time keeping him out of the lineup, especially if they know from what they see at practice, which is way more than we see. If he's outperforming somebody that is a current starter, they've shown us through the Nate Davis move that they're not afraid to make a change within their starting 5 if they believe it's going to lead to an upgrade. Now, has it? A lot of that's, debatable, but I think Matt Pryor's played pretty solid.
He's played
in
really
moments.
well. Yeah.
It's certainly solidifying the right side of the offensive line. Just sucks that Darnell Wright had the injury and had to leave that game. And you brought in Jake Curran to be in a, completely overmatched situation.
Yeah.
You'd like to prevent that. And I don't think somebody like Ryan Bates, given his experience in the league, whether it's a little bit of starting experience or in his experience as a backup, being able to go in and fit a couple different spots, that's not for nothing. Like, I don't think you can just discount that and be like, all right, well, we're just going to roll with what we have. No, if somebody's better than what you have right now, then you give that person a shot to prove that the pass protection can get better.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, right, you can't have, if what Tevin Jenkins said still holds true when Ryan Bates comes back, you can't have your vocal leader coming off the bench. You have no out. You have to find a spot for him. As far as I know, he hasn't logged a ton of time at tackle. He's been more of a guard. He's got 150 career snaps at center. Talk about Ryan Bates, of course. Like, I do agree. By the end of camp, we all were like, well, Coleman Shelton's the starting center. You're not going to change this now. But the plan coming in was for him to take that center position and take the reins of that. And you would think, as a vocal leader, that's usually your center position on the offensive line. I do wonder if there is hey, we want to get this guy worked back in here at that center position, because that's where we feel it is weaker. Tevin Jenkins has stepped his game up at the left guard position. Like you said, even if it's not Matt Pryor, Nate Davis is a better right guard. If they ever were to work him back in, he's a better right guard than what Ryan Bates is when he's engaged. I guess you have to throw that caveat out there now every time. So if you were to move Matt Pryor, you probably wouldn't go straight to Ryan Bates in that situation. I don't know kind of the dynamic of where that's at right now with this team, but I think that if he is, like Tevin Jenkins said, your vocal leader of this offensive line, and you've been playing without him for 10 weeks, you don't have a choice but to try and fit him in somewhere there. And I don't know if you can do that at a tackle position.
No. And all of this has to be done in the context of protecting Caleb, the quarterback. Is the quarterback comfortable? Does he, let's say, play this thing out, does he have enough time to work on that quarterback center exchange so there's not an issue in what could be Ryan Bates' first game this weekend if he's activated? So all of that has to be factored into the Bears' decision and how they go about moving around pieces on the offensive line, so they're not moving too many just to try to fill up one hole.
Right. Was it telling to you at all? Because I asked Shane, about some of the concerns with protecting the quarterback and Coleman Shelton's struggles to do that. And his response to me was, we like that he can get out of the huddle, set up the offense, and call out
the cycle of the snap thing.
The plays.
They love that buzzword.
He never talked about blocking. He never talked about protecting the quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's your tell right there, that when you get as vanilla of an answer as that there are execution issues. There's talent issues. Maybe it might not be an effort thing. They may really like the guy and think that he's, trying his best, but
I would agree.
Obviously not good enough.
I would agree. I mean, look, the one thing I always see on tape is Coleman Shelton he's able to call out the defense. Everybody saw the clip. We've got fire. He understands what he's looking at. I think that even Caleb said it yesterday. He gets the communication part of, helping the quarterback.
Sure.
He even engages the guy at the right spot. That doesn't mean he ends every play on his feet. And I think when you have that kind of issue, it's great to know your job, but you also have to do your job. And I don't think that the Bears have 5 guys that can do that up front right now.
And I mean, let's not forget, this isn't just about protecting Caleb Williams. They've been really inefficient running the ball the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And some of that's been these gap runs that they've been doing, more than just the outside zone stuff that we thought that was going to be the identity of this run game. Get guys out in space, get DeAndre Swift out in space, put him in a position where he can, make guys miss, all of that. Some of that comes from where are they running through?
Yeah.
Running through between the A and the B gap. And I think that's kind of a tell to the offensive line struggling at that part too.
Yeah. It's the O-line is going to be very interesting the entire season. And I think the communication issues to me are the most concerning. There's a ton of that going on, not just with the offensive line.
It's weird that 10 weeks in, dude, we're still talking about can't figure out how to communicate.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a valid excuse. I think that this is it's a sign of a bigger problem, and I don't know what that is. I truly can't figure it out. Is it that what the players are being asked to do is too complicated, that like they're not feeling like they're confident in it, so somebody does one thing, somebody does another thing? Is it changing what they're being asked to do, like just from a course correct of Shane Waldron and the offensive coaches telling their guys, "Hey, we realize that this didn't work. Let's try something different." So guys are having to like learn something brand new every single week to
Yeah.
implement it. Whatever it is, it's the reason that you haven't seen the consistency, the ability to gel, because it almost feels like they're pivoting off of things that worked one week, and then for whatever reason, it's not working the next week, and then they have to go like this completely different route. When I hear DJ Moore and Caleb Williams talking about the same stuff that they were talking about in the London week of, and even before that, if we're not on the same page, how do we get, like, we're 10 weeks into this. It's not an overreaction to say that that's a problem. That's alarming that those two can't seem to get their communication together. And I don't know, what Caleb Williams seemed to intimate is that they're just not paring down on the detailed details enough. You know what I mean? When he says, yeah, we can laugh and joke and all these things, but I think we really need to like up the communication. I'm paraphrasing, but we need to up the communication of how things are run on a certain play, what he sees, what I see, and do it that way. Like I was down there on the sideline. I did ESPN radio this past week, and I remember after
Humble flex.
it was fun. It was fun. I had a great time. And I was watching, it was after like something in the third quarter. I was watching Caleb go up to DJ and Keenan on the bench and like talk to them. But I didn't see, and maybe this is not on Caleb, but I didn't see like, oh, let's pull out the iPad or the Surface Pro and go through it together. I just heard an exchange of words. It's hard to hear down there, so I couldn't exactly make out what they were saying, but I didn't see that level of communication that Caleb Williams said that he needs to have with his number one receiver.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that, like, 10 weeks in, you're not doing that. What gives on that? Because that doesn't seem acceptable and it doesn't all have to fall on Caleb's shoulders. He's a rookie quarterback trying to figure this thing out. I think that I'm wondering, do the receivers, are they taking enough initiative to get it right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think what's interesting is this has been the week of, I don't even know if the week, it's been a weird season with the dynamic of Caleb Williams and DJ Moore. It has been. But
it's not nothing. You know what I mean? Like people are like, oh, like you're overreacting to this. And I've been somebody who like said, about the body language thing. Like not everybody's a body language expert. Like
it's kind of just DJ.
And that's him. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's not a freaking robot. Yeah. So like I appreciate when you can tell he's not happy about something, but he's not demonstrative. It's nothing bad. I meant to say like it's nothing bad about that. But that doesn't mean that this is not nothing.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that there aren't issues. And this isn't a sign of hey, this something's not gelling between these two and it's hard to figure out. Like that's what I mean by that. And it's very evident that they whatever they were doing that was working so well during training camp and during the preseason, all that, it just has not translated to games. And it's not just, the defense is taking away DJ Moore, because you're seeing them missing.
Yeah.
Like the back shoulder throw to when DJ's still running vertical down the field, to the Keenan Allen throw in the red
10
zone.
10 weeks into a season.
To where DJ Moore was open.
Yeah.
Like, that's not valid. That's not a valid excuse to be like, oh, well, they're still working at it. Come on. Like 10 weeks in. Jaden Daniels, and I'm not trying to just like throw it out because they've had a good offense, but have you heard anything about like Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin like not being on the same page, the number one receiver on a team and the quarterback? That's supposed to be your best friend out there, and it just doesn't feel. And I understand the reads, the progressions, all those things matter.
No,
but like,
I
it just
agree with
doesn't
you, though.
seem. I just don't buy the excuse of, they're still working at it. You're 10 weeks into this, guys. Like, figure it out.
I really do wonder this. I wonder because listen, I don't believe that you can ever have too many weapons.
I agree with that.
I think that is
believer that's
dumbest,
a bullshit excuse when people are like, oh, there's one football, like, got to get the ball to everybody. And you have guys that are demanding it. I don't know. Shane Waldron in his answer on it today, when he's like, when I asked him about Cole Kmet, like, why are they not targeting him? It's not an excuse of defense is taking him away.
Yeah.
Like when he's like, oh, sometimes he might be the first read on something and the coverage rolls his way. That's taking him out of, progression. You go him. Okay, well, he's covered. Like, it's not happening every single time. I don't buy that. Either because if it is, you're telling me your playbook's very easy to figure out. Yes. That's ridiculous. Yeah. I don't buy what we're being told about the state of the offense and like why you can't seem to get the ball to your playmakers. Yes, negative plays hurt. The sacks hurt. The penalties hurt. All of those things are true, but you still have all of this talent, and it's not like you're not targeting them. Keenan Allen had 10 targets. DJ Moore had 9 targets. That's 19 between the two of them, and they turned in 8 catches for like 70, 80 yards between the two of them, and you're like, that's not acceptable.
I think my concern is this, though, Courtney. Like, for some reason, the Chicago Bears feel, you bring up Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin. I think the dynamic there is different, not because there's less weaponry on that team, but you know who your number one is. I don't know if the Bears know who their number one is. I don't think that the Bears have identified that no
DJ
matter
Moore
what
is
game,
the obvious number
100% to all of us. But there are games where DJ Moore comes out of it with 4 targets, 6 targets. That's not a number one. And yeah, you can sit here and tell me, when DJ Moore has games like that, well, we're trying to get everybody involved. And so maybe it's not DJ's day. Yeah, there shouldn't be a day if he's your number one that it's not DJ's day. I watched Justin Jefferson over there with the Minnesota Vikings. They got a ton of weapons. They got a bunch of guys they can throw the football to. They still get Justin Jefferson 8 to 10 targets a day. I seen the Rams go win a Super Bowl with multiple weapons on that team. They still made sure they got it to Cooper Kupp. Puka Nacua shows up. Now he's dominating. Guess who's still getting the football? Nobody ever questions that Cooper Kupp's the number one over there. Only here do we have this idea that, well, there's too many guys, so you can't get the football to your number one. And I just don't believe that.
I mean, if that is the case, then you're saying the coaches don't know how to manage egos. If that's the truth, then you're saying the coaches don't know how to manage egos. And where does that start? It starts with the head coach. Ultimately, if you can't figure it out because you're trying like, okay, let's all be PC here and like your day's this day, your day's this day. And then it's not working because you can't get in a rhythm because you're trying something new. And maybe that's the reason that the communication is apparently so poor between quarterback and his receivers because he's missing them and he's been off target. Like, this is not somebody who's had accuracy issues.
He's also been bad.
That's insane to me. Like
the first half of that Cardinals game he was protected. The offensive line had moments, but the 2 sacks in that first half, I'm like, Caleb, you got to get rid of football. Yeah. There are guys there.
And that is when it is a valid excuse. Yes. Sacks are on everybody, on the quarterback too. But as you pare it down more and wondering, okay, like why can't they get Cole Kmet? Like, he's hit a 90% catch percentage. Yeah. Through up until the Washington game.
It's still like 85 or 86. Yeah, like it's still really high.
And you're just, and it's not, I get it. They're not consciously saying we're not getting Cole the ball, but you're not, if you're a coach, if you're Shane Waldron, you want to hear, if you're a Bears fan, if you're anybody in this organization, you want to hear, no, it's unacceptable. Like we have to get, that's on me. We have to get Cole the ball. That is one of our best players. Like, he is a security blanket in the red zone for Caleb Williams. That is somebody you have to make sure is part of the game plan. He had 1 target in Washington, nothing, literally nothing in Arizona. That's not acceptable. And yes, there will be games that look like Jacksonville and other games that look like Panthers. Yeah. Like, maybe a couple targets here and there. Like, you have a lot of mouths to feed, but you just can't tell me that it's a byproduct of we have a lot of mouths to feed. Like, when you have guys who are consistently putting you in position to win, and yes, factor in that you don't want to be in 3rd and forever and 2nd and long all the time. Well, fix the things that are fixable first and foremost. Like, stop with like the negative plays stuff. 10 weeks in, we shouldn't be hearing about that. Saying that's not an excuse. That's not a valid excuse at this point.
And listen, my concern, and I, which he said the words that have me most concerned of all. When I kind of pressed them on, they didn't talk about Shane Waldron in the presser today. Well, why aren't your guys comfortable 10 weeks into the season? When he hits me with, it's about the whys, we got to figure. I'm like, oh boy. Yeah. Here we go. Hold on now.
It's an eye roller because you know that it's not a real answer. Because
I've heard about the whys too often here, Courtney.
No, and it's, I think a lot of Bears fans that get triggered by that. Oh, Matt Eberflus talked about it too.
Go all the way back to Nagy with that one. Every week was the whys.
To me, that's when you're in preservation mode, just being like, let's just throw something at the wall and hope that they take it and run with it and that it's good enough of an answer. It's not a good enough answer. But there's just the bottom line is, and I guarantee behind closed doors are having the conversations of it isn't good enough, guys. Like it is on you.
Yeah.
But it's also on the coaches. Like when they watch the tape back, like how do they I would love to know like what those conversations are like in determining this was player execution error versus we put you in a bad situation.
Yeah.
There are both of those things.
100%.
But like when it's the latter and it's on the coaching staff to put these guys in a better spot so you can just get the layups, get something going. Simplify, do whatever you have to do to make your quarterback's life easier and also to feed your guys. It can't just be a matter of, well, we were backed up so much, so we couldn't run the ball. And then we were backed up so much that we, had no route concepts for anything. Like, come on, that's not a valid excuse.
Yeah, it's bad. And listen, I like the fact that I think we're to a point where we realize it's on everybody. But at the end of the day, while there are moments that are on Caleb's a rookie.
Mhm.
Caleb's the kid.
Him.
You have to help him. Are there accuracy issues? Yeah, there are.
And when
He's
you don't block it
guys.
up right, like he's never going to be able to get the deep passing game going. It's why the numbers have been so bad. He was 1 for 8 on passes that went 15 or more air yards.
Yeah.
Because you're in third and forever and you're trying and the offensive line stinks in terms of trying to like it's a chicken and egg argument, dude.
And
like,
how many of those
deep
deep passes is he moving because he's running for his life and he's like, oh, there's DJ down there. Let me see if I can make a play.
Mm-hmm.
I have a tough time sitting here taking the guy who's 9 games into his NFL career and going, yeah, he's probably the problem. When I've seen this equation before, I've seen this with the offensive line. I've seen this with the offensive coordinators. I'll tell you this. I come away from last Sunday's game going into this Sunday's game, and I thought in the first half, Shane called a decent game. But in the second half, I mean, how many times were there just receivers standing 3-4 feet from each other? And you're like, okay, well, what's the plan here? Like, how's Caleb supposed to fit it into whatever window you're trying to create when everyone's right there in the same spot, including 6 Arizona defenders? Like, I do go back to the scheme. I do go back to some of my concerns with the offensive coordinator. And at the bottom line, I go back to the fact that you brought a new quarterback in and didn't protect him. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing for me. The offensive line falling apart. I understand the injuries, but Court, they weren't very good when they were healthy.
No, and this is like their thing that they've got to figure out, regardless of win-loss record, the second half of the season. Do you have the right coaches in place for the development of this offense, but namely for the development of the quarterback?
Yeah.
Because when you're talking about the same problems 10 weeks in, that would naturally give anybody concern and raise the question of, is Shane Waldron, is this offense the right fit? Is he the right play caller? For now, he still is the play caller here. Like Matt Eberflus gave him, I don't know how solid of a vote of confidence that was. If that was just like him pushing the question aside because he doesn't want to deal with it right now. But this is your, if the season ends up them missing the playoffs, which honestly it kind of feels like they're probably not in a great situation considering they had 2 very winnable games.
Yeah. And you would have to eviscerate your division.
Yeah, like
the toughest division in football.
The biggest evaluation these next couple weeks, next 9 weeks of the season is going to be, is Caleb going to be okay by the time the season ends? Is he going to be in a spot where you're like, the development's on the right track?
Yeah.
You don't want to keep having all this turnover. They're trying to break the cycle of what they did last year, but you can't tell me that you feel confident watching him play in this offense when this offense statistically is worse in just like about every category than the last year's offense was. Yet this is an upgrade in terms of talent. It's supposed to be an upgrade in terms of play caller because you fired the old guy, who got fired this week. So either Matt Eberflus is struggling to pick the right person to put his quarterback in the situation, or it's something altogether that I don't even know what you'd call it. Like, I think it would just fall on the decisions that this coaching staff has made, including the coaches that are here to guide his development.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in, especially heading into a game that not only do you have to win just for the standings purposes. Going into Green Bay is a lot different, or playing against Green Bay, I should say, with them coming here. It's a lot different if you're 5-4 than if you're 4-5. You feel like you're in a better spot. You feel like you're at least still competing, and a win in the division, I always count those as double wins, because not only are you getting a win in the win column, but you get an opportunity to move up in the standings a little bit if you can get enough of them together. This is going to be a scary week, though, especially with a lot of the injuries that this team is having right now. I want to talk about one of those big injuries that the Bears are having right now. But first, we do have to tell you guys all about the contest that is running right now. Bears fans, it is Pat the Designer here, and I know that you have some epic fan caves, designer fan caves even, and I'm teaming up with Miller Lite to find the best of the best. Head over to MillerLiteFanCave.com and share your photos or videos of your ultimate bear cave right now. Each week I'll be highlighting one of them by the best setups around Chicago and stopping by with some Miller Lite Bears swag and the ultimate. And if you have the ultimate fan cave, you'll score tickets to the game Bears versus Green Bay and a luxury tailgate at the Tundra Trio. So show me what you've got at MillerLiteFanCave.com. Let's go, Chicago. It's Miller time. Some good fan caves out there. I enjoy.
Tickets to Bears Packers. That's going to be a hot ticket, regardless of what happens this week.
Oh yeah.
That's a good contest to enter.
In Lambeau, come on, that's a dangerous game to play.
It's the Lambeau game. I wasn't even paying attention. I thought it was the Week 11 game. Wow.
No. You get to go up and
that'll be fun.
Have some fun up there.
Last game of the season. What if the Bears are in a situation to knock them out of the playoffs again?
That would be amazing.
Not hopeful considering how good Green Bay has been. But anyways.
Jordan Love throws a lot of picks.
Yeah, he does.
I'm not
a lot of interceptions.
You know what? Sidebar. We don't have a sponsor for that on this show, but shout out to Cabin J Hood. Jordan Love is giving me Brett Favre-ish vibes. I think he's 15-10 right now, touchdown to interceptions. Will we let a Brett Favre type quarterback survive in the modern NFL?
I mean, you're seeing Josh Allen.
Josh Allen don't have that many interceptions.
I mean, he's very boomer.
This year,
no, but he's been boomer bust throughout his career.
Yeah.
And I think he's obviously worked on it, that quietly an MVP candidate, but it's with the way that Jordan Love played last year. And remember, this was kind of the week that, week 10. Week 10 onwards, where he started really figuring it out. They were 3-6 to start, and then all of a sudden he throws one interception over the back end of the season. They find their way into the playoffs. He was mistake-free by and large until
the big
Brett
mistake.
Favre
Until he pulled a Favre. That's what I'm saying,
Going across his body in San Francisco. It's a hard question because there have been those guys who end up getting phased out. Think about Jameis. Boomer bust.
I literally he was one of the first quarterbacks I thought of. 30 touchdowns would have outweighed 30 interceptions 25 years ago.
Baker Mayfield's done it.
I mean,
did it within this current era.
You literally, and it's so funny because Brett Favre's a Hall of Famer, and we look at Baker he's a nice guy. He plays well. He keeps his team competitive. It's just such a different era of football. I thought about that watching the Packers this weekend. I was like, man, he can lead some beautiful drives.
Yep.
And then he'll have a drive where it's just what did you see that made you throw it into four guys? You threw it directly to the defender. That was impressive. Let's get back to Bears football. That's enough Packers time. We don't need none of that. We got plenty of that coming next week. So we'll stem off that vibe right now. Let's talk about this defense. The defense losing a absolutely huge piece in Andrew Billings. I believe he had surgery today on that torn pec. I would assume the belief is that he's probably done for the season. Matt Eberflus didn't co-sign that.
He's going to IR at the end of the week, and this is not an injury. You had surgery on it. It's not an injury that you come back from in 9 weeks.
Yeah, I think the not co-signing that is what if we make the playoffs? And I'm not there yet. I'm not. You got to win a lot of games for that. So without
huge
that, without that, I mean, he's been not only just one of the best pass rushers on this team, Courtney, but one of the best pass rushers in the NFL from that defensive interior. He's consistently created pressure. The run blocking is the run defense is taking a little bit of a step back in his game. But I thought that he's to me, Gervon Dexter's ascension is tied to how good Andrew Billings has been standing next to him. Is that something that the Bears can overcome heading into this week? And of course, with the tough schedule they have coming up.
We'll see if Zach Pickens, dude had a groin injury. He told us today that it was the first layer of it. He tore it in Houston, which I guess obviously there's different severities, different degrees of tears, but I was really surprised to hear that he had an injury that was that severe. that he was able to come back from. But the guy was a 3rd-round pick for a reason. He can play both spots on the interior. They want both of their guys to do that. Will he be Andrew Billings? I mean, nobody's going to be the sheer size of like a run stuffer up front. So that's something that they're going to have. I mean, you want to keep the running backs off your linebackers, and that's what Billings does. And that's what it's what the 3 technique does. It's what Billings does so well. At least when the run defense looks better than it is, this will be a huge test for them to figure out, can you survive, or is this about to look like an onslaught?
Yeah,
That's what would scare me about this run defense, because they're averaging 5 yards a play. And of course they're like, the 53-yard touchdown run like ups that average. What we saw in Washington does too, but they're giving up 131 rushing yards a game. These numbers just have to come down if they want to stay competitive, because right now the Bears are an easy tell in like the ways that you can attack them. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, what is different about this? You have the same personnel.
Yeah.
Same personnel up front. Javon Dexter in year 2 should be better. And of course, Andrew Billings through 8 games was, he's affecting the quarterback, but he should have been your guy that you could rely on up front to stop the run. I truly don't understand when it's the same defense, same players, same scheme. Only thing that's different is Eric Washington. Why does it look as bad as it does?
Yeah.
Everybody around the league just get better at running the football. I mean, you can say that, sure.
The numbers technically would say that this
Especially
season.
the
Run numbers have been up
the
crazy.
first 6 weeks of the season, yes. But like, I don't buy that as an excuse. Like, all of them got better. Come on.
They started paying running backs again, Courtney, and all of a sudden they were like, oh, we'll run now. No. The one thing I'll say, at least for last week, it was clear Montez Sweat not being there was the biggest thing that affected that run game. I mean,
it wasn't his decision. I think that's interesting too. When he told us today, at least from his perspective, he did the pregame warm-up. Ryan Poles, the training staff, coaches, they're the ones who made the determination that he couldn't go. And we hear from him today. I mean, he had 2 DNPs in there, I think limited on Thursday. He didn't do anything. He said it was a very light week of practice for him. And they determined that the contusion he has on his, I believe it's his left shin, that they didn't want to have him go in that game. So you can't blame Montez Sweat for this and like be like, oh, well, it's a pain tolerance thing. He didn't want to play through it. Sounds like the decision was taken completely out of his hands, which, if he's back this week, which would be a good sign. He was, I believe, limited on Wednesday. And so for him to get back in the mix, they need him from a pass rush perspective.
Yeah.
You're a rookie quarterback. You got to have somebody terrorizing him.
When I heard that today from Montez, I thought it was very telling, because even J-Mac said last week, he was like, I was shocked that Montez was not on the field. He said he didn't seem like he was limping, had his headphones on. He was ready to go.
Eating an Uncrustable, right as the game was starting. I was like, damn. He said, I wish I could do that.
I mean, Courtney, you just keep them in your pocket.
I mean,
they're pocket size.
I saw him walk out, and I saw him just pull this thing out, and he's like, I was like, oh, where did that come from?
So you got to mix it. You do your Uncrustable one pocket, you have the mouthwash other pocket to clear things out. You're on the field, everybody's spitting. Get in on it.
Good point. But yeah, I mean, to your point, Matt Eberflus sounded a little more confident than I expected last Friday when he was talking about giving Sweat the extra day to see if he could go. He has the pregame warm up. He couldn't. Adding him back in, it's a no-brainer that it helps, but I don't know if it's a fix-all when you lose Andrew Billings. You add one in, and you're taking another, a big part of your interior pass rush out. That's a big problem. Yeah, no, for sure. But I think what I saw last week was just we're running to Montez's side. They weren't really attacking Billings nearly as much. Not an excuse for the runs that you gave up, but I thought that it was very telling last week, and having Montez back this week versus the Patriots, who Eric Washington talked about Drake May today and was like, listen, he's got a couple of reads he's going to try and get to, and then he becomes a running back. And that's the thing that is dangerous about him. You don't just have to worry about Ramondre Stevenson this week. You also got to worry about the fact that Drake May, don't let the spunky white guy fool you. What do they always call it? Sneaky fast. Yeah. Don't let him fool you that he's sneaky fast. He can get away. He's got some legs. Scramble touchdown against the Jets 2 weeks ago. Eight rushing attempts for 95 yards this past week. He can get out and move. Yeah. And I think that that's something where when you've got a struggling run defense, I don't know if people thought of Drake May as a mobile quarterback, but we saw how Jaden Daniels was able to affect the game with his legs. I think he finished with 54 yards, 5.3 yards per carry. You don't want that to happen with a rookie quarterback, especially in a game where, like I said, the narrative changes. If Drake May goes out there and balls out,
and Caleb Williams yet again struggles.
Because then, yeah,
that
at the
way.
end of the day, you're looking at 2 losses potentially
Yeah.
of like where the other rookie quarterbacks look better than your rookie quarterback who was supposed to be better, like the cream of the crop of all of this. And he still very well may be, but if you're not putting him in a situation, multiple situations, just kind of like speaking generally, the questions are only going to magnify about the offensive staff and why it's struggling, why their whole thing is struggling as much as it is.
Yeah, and this one would be where, I mean, listen, Jaden Daniels, for the most part, I can say Jaden Daniels, the Commanders did a good job of putting an offensive line in front of him. His legs also help with that as well, and of course, they've simplified the system for him. Drake May's in hell. The offensive line is not good. He doesn't really have elite wide receiver help over there for him. The run game is solid at best. Like, it's not like Drake May is coming in and he's like, I'm in the perfect situation for me to thrive in. We've watched all the games. And so I think this would be one that would really change. I don't know if it would change people's opinion in the building. I don't think it would change anybody's opinion who's really locked in on what Caleb Williams is doing, but it would change the opinion, I think, not only just around Caleb, but around how you set Caleb up. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people already, we've heard all the fire Matt Eberflus, move on and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it's a tough job to try and win football games when you can't protect your quarterback.
Of course.
And I think that just heightens that conversation around Ryan Poles.
No, it does. And I know that, like, I've gotten the question about when does the front office start falling into that mix?
Yeah.
Because right now there's a lot of heat certainly on the offensive coordinator, but on the head coach as well. You have not heard that same conversation around Ryan Poles and the general manager.
It's just been me. It's just been me.
Pretty much. I mean, but like at some point, if Drake May is flourishing in this game behind a patchwork offensive line that they have, and Caleb's not behind a line that should be better.
Yeah.
These guys have all played together this year. Like, they might have Ryan Bates coming back. Who knows? They're still injured. I don't know. I think the injuries magnify it. And if like somebody outperforms the other quarterback behind a worse offensive line, then it's just going to look like, what are you doing?
Yeah. We did this last week. I think this is fun. What's the storyline in this game if the Bears win? What's the storyline in this game if the Bears lose?
The Bears win. They beat a bad team that they should win. They should beat. And that Caleb looks better. Like they get back to the offense that looks like it did against Jacksonville, which is they're capable of.
Yeah.
Patriots very similar to Jacksonville, just in terms of, where they rank offensively, defensively. It should be attainable. If they lose 4-5, then I just feel like there will be fans who look at this and give up and say, well, the season's over right now, because it's going to feel insurmountable to try to go beat Green Bay at home, beat Minnesota, beat Detroit, all that you're set up for the final 2 months of the season, month and a half of the season. That's going to be brutal. So this is the last, you have to win this game.
Yeah.
You're favored in this game. It's the last one of those that you get.
And listen, I'm one, I believe in get right games. I know some people don't believe in get right games.
Oh, they need one.
I think
they couldn't get off the mat last week. They need this one.
Yeah, I think this is a game where you can get right, where you can figure some things out offensively, whether they stick with them or not. I never know. Yeah, I've seen things where I'm like, well, that worked every time you did it, and then they never go back to that. But I think that this is a game that, with the divisional opponents in front of you, you have to find something you do well, and you have to find a connection with Caleb Williams that works. And I get it, right? We started this off talking about DJ Moore's your number one. If the connection with Rome Odunze is the best connection you got, you got to ride that through these divisional games. If all of a sudden the connection with Keenan Allen is the best connection you got to ride that through these divisional games. I don't think that you can play the game of, well, we're trying to get everybody involved. We're trying to make, even if it's Cole Kmet, whoever that is, you have to go with that, because you're kind of to a point here where the playoffs are already kind of out of this. But if you lose to the Packers, I think you're losing more than just the playoffs by the end of this season.
Yeah, and the players have been adamant, or at least what they've said publicly, that nobody has lost the locker room, that everybody's still locked into this. Losses start to really change that.
Yeah.
and you want to avoid that as much as you can.
No, 100%.
Otherwise, we're going to be hearing about like 10 more team meetings that happen next week. And when you get to like the players only meeting, then you know you're in trouble.
Yeah,
that is coming if they continue to lose these games.
And I feel like people thought that's what TJ Edwards was saying. He said the coaches were there.
Yeah, no, I mean,
he did say the coaches were there.
It was a normal team meeting.
Yes, this was a team meeting. This was not it was a team meeting that everyone was allowed to kind of air the grievances that they have with the team. This was not a players only like, all right, we got to get some guys out of here, which is usually that's just me. When you get the players only meetings, it's like, all right, what we got to do to get these coaches up out of here, dog? They're killing us right now.
When you started hearing that with the Saints a couple weeks ago, like they were having players only meeting,
I don't know. Michael Thomas trying to get Derek Carr out of there.
Yeah,
I'm like, what's happening there?
Certainly was.
Asking random fans, do you think that Derek Carr is good? What? But no, what is your prediction for this Sunday's game, Court?
I've picked the Bears the last couple of weeks, and it has not played out in a win. But I do think they are a better team than the Patriots. Yeah. I really do. I don't know if they can score a lot of points right now. They're really struggling to do that. So until they can, I don't think that I'm going to have as high of a score. I'll probably say like 21-19, 21-17, somewhere in there. But I do think they win at home. They've won at home. The defense has played much better at home for obvious reasons, noise, all of those things. I think they do have their get right game, and they're at least for one more week in the win column.
Yeah, I think this is a don't screw me over on this. I think this is a 27-10 win. I think the Bears dominate this one.
Okay.
I think that they actually do get themselves together offensively. It's not because I think the Bears are great either. I just think the Patriots are really that bad. I mean, even listen, the game last week that the Patriots win, we're sitting there watching two teams the whole time going, where's the next game? Like, please let me turn this off. I think that the Bears at home start a new record because the record has now been broken.
Yeah.
It got to 12. How many games did it get to?
21, holding opponents to
12 games, right?
Points or less. It was last week where it got snapped.
Yeah. It was it got snapped quick too.
I think it was 13.
13 games. 13? So 13 games straight of holding opponents to 21 or less, broken. Start the record all over. Let's take it all the way to next season, and we run it back again, and then we meet here next year, and we're probably 4-5, and we do this all over again. I kid. We're going to the Super Bowl. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. For Courtney, Cronin, it's your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again. Let us know your Bears prediction in the comments below. Yes, I'm sipping the Kool-Aid. I don't even know what the Kool-Aid is at this point. It's like one packet. There's no sugar in it, Courtney. It's bad. It's a big pitcher.
It's like the Kool-Aid you get after church.
It's
stuff that like it's just not made right.
It's my Aunt Susie's Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? It's not. I love you, Aunt Susie, but that Kool-Aid was crazy. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.